That he felt that she was cool and was already showing signs of cyanosis would indicate that she had been dead for at least half an hour, perhaps longer.
So what time did the hospital report her arrival?
The reports say 23:33 hours on the 27th. That would be 27 minutes before. People with cocaine overdoses do survive if they get to the hospital in time.
So the fact that she was already cold to the touch, what does that say to you?
Well, it certainly, cold to touch is a subjective thing, and it varies from one person to another. But if she were truly cold to touch, that would indicate that she had been dead for, I would estimate, at least 30 minutes or so. Plus the fact that there was no response to the hospital-given resuscitation drugs would be consistent with that also.
Does the hospital records indicate that they got an emergency call? That someone was bringing her in any of the records you saw?
My understanding is she just arrived.
Just arrived. And Hogg Hospital is about 10 minutes from 409 Morningstar. A 10-minute drive would seem to be something easily accomplished at 11:30 at night.
Correct. So this would indicate that she died or became unresponsive to whoever she was with before she was put in the car and driven straight to the hospital, if she was driven straight to the hospital.
So all this leads you to conclude what? That Mr. Bakhtar had a lot more involvement?
What it basically says is what he told the law enforcement personnel is untrue. Could not have happened the way he said it happened, and that the case merits additional investigation by the law enforcement. My understanding is that they've done nothing. They just gave reasons or explanations why they think they were correct originally and why they're not going to do anything more.
Had Andrea Nelson made a trip to this hospital in '02 for a date rape drug overdose, and it appears she had been taken to Hogg Hospital for a date rape drug overdose, with that kind of a background history, wouldn't that be more emphatic that the police do more investigation?
Well, it certainly, would indicate that previously somebody had administered her a drug to render her unconscious. Whether or not there is a relationship between that and her death would only be determined through investigation, and if same individuals were involved, then it certainly would raise more red flags.
Based on all this, is it amazing to you that Mr. Bakhtar is still walking around free?
What bothers me is that the investigation has not been done that could obtain the evidence and information to arrest him and charge him. Certainly you can't arrest him until you have reasonable cause, but in this particular case, no reasonable cause could ever have been established because no sufficient investigation and interviewing was done.
Dr. Pinnell, how did you get involved in this?
In October of 2003, I was invited by the Orange County chapter of Parents of Murdered Children and answer questions that the family members and other survivors of homicide had regarding the death of their loved ones, because unfortunately a lot of times the public servants don't answer the questions that the family have, or the family's not ready to ask them. Ms. Cator apparently was at that meeting, and she asked me for my contact information, and then she sent me a lot of information which I looked at, and I must emphasize that this is all done pro bono. I don't charge her or anybody else for this kind of work. And that's how I got involved in it. As far as the amendment goes, quite interesting. There are the original report, which was dated January 28th, 2003, and that put the cause of death as pending or undetermined. Then on March 11th of 2003, there's a second report of death, and this one states the death is due to the combined effects of the methamphetamine and cocaine, and it lists only one person as present at the autopsy from the Orange County coroner's office, one of the autopsy assistants. Then, 3 years later, May 10th of 2006, there is a letter from a Colleen Holland who lists herself as an office technician, where there's another amendment to the death report, where they've added in another witness as being present at the autopsy. And it certainly is questionsome to me that why 3+ years after the fact they would go back and make a correction to add another witness to the being present at the autopsy. Change made in 2006 is definitely different than the one done back in 2003 with different signatures and a different format and everything else. So I'm really curious as to why they would go back and make a correction on a 3-year-old case, and why they would even be looking at a 3-year-old case.
Who was the witness they added when they amended?
The witness they added is a Gary Jackson, who they say was or is a senior forensic specialist.
And he doesn't appear in the original autopsy.
He doesn't appear in the original report of death. He doesn't appear in the initial amendment of the report of death when they included the cause of death back in March of '03. We cannot really decide which one is incorrect. I would just question as to why they went back and looked at a case 3 years ago, and the only thing that they changed was to add another witness to the autopsy. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Have you ever seen this done before?
I certainly have seen autopsy reports corrected and amended, but not adding or deleting witnesses, no.
And that strikes you as strange.
Very strange. I have no idea what their motive is. Ostensibly, they're saying they want to have correct records and that a clerical error occurred. It's very rare that you issue an amended report because of a clerical error, much less go back and find it 3 years after the fact. Issue an amended report because of a clerical error, much less go back and find it 3 years after the fact. Issue an amended report because of a clerical error, much less go back and find it 3 years after the fact.
Now, who would remember a clerical error 3 years later?
I don't think anybody would remember a clerical error from 3 years before. I would like to add, although they're not on my report because they're in other documents, was that the fact that neither the hospital nor the coroner's office did a rape examination in this suspicious death.
Is that strange?
That's strange. Most female homicides in general will get a rape exam because it's part of the investigation in a suspicious or homicide type of death. And none was done in this particular circumstance. The other thing that bothers me is that if you have any reason to suspect that cocaine or methamphetamine might be the cause of death, you usually do nasal swabs and see if it's positive for cocaine or not, because if the nasal swabs are negative, that eliminates one of the most common routes of people voluntarily taking cocaine. It means then that either the person must have smoked crack or it was given to them intravenously or by some other method, but not by nose, which would increase the suspicion that it was not voluntary.
So your conclusion is Andrea Nelson was...
What I see here is Andrea Nelson is a very suspicious death. There are inconsistencies, and I would certainly lean more toward homicide than accident, although with the lack of investigation, it still must be undetermined. But it needs investigation.